Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this October 4th, 2022, a Tuesday. Thank you for tuning in. Glad to have you guys here. And here's what I want to talk about. I was talking about the Fed and how I don't think they're going to pivot quite yet, but don't get the wrong idea. They are going to pivot. And I'm going to say this morning that I believe that they're going to pivot before the end of the year. But Wall Street has basically, they believe they're going to pivot right now. And this is why you're seeing the markets turn upwards. This is why you're seeing gold and silver turn upwards, cryptocurrency turn upwards. This is why you're seeing the bond market basically turning upwards, but that's when the bonds yields turn down. That's the bond market turning upwards because it's an inverse market. So you're seeing bond yields fall, and that's bonds rising. Like, everything's rising right now, and that's because they believe the Fed's going to pivot right now with this emergency meeting. I've stated I'm very skeptical about this emergency meeting being the pivot, even though the United Nations yesterday said that we're going to go into an worldwide economic decline if the Fed doesn't stop raising interest rates. And basically, they haven't really called upon the Fed to change direction, but basically they're saying for the Fed to change direction or the world's going to go into a crisis. Well, I don't think the Fed's going to change just yet because of what it means. And this is why I don't think they're going to change directions just yet, is because when they change directions, basically it's going to start the demise of the dollar. And we already see the dollar falling off on the DXY from around 104 down to 100 and was it right today? Just let me take a quick look here on the DXY, see what it is today. Where's my DXY? Right here. 110.88. So we've seen a fall off quite recently in the DXY, but the dollar's in a precarious position. And the Fed knows that when they pivot this time, it's game over. So they're very reluctant to do so, even with the calls on them for, and we've already seen the BOE pivot, the Bank of England. Well, so we know where we're at right now, and I could be wrong. Maybe they'll come out and announce, "Hey, we're changing direction." The Fed tomorrow they might announce that. Maybe the markets are right. Maybe I'm wrong, but I tend to think that it's going to be a few more weeks or maybe a couple more months before they pivot, the real pivot. And what did you see by this? Okay, in your analysis, if this was a head fake, and if they don't really pivot, but the markets thought they were going to pivot with their emergency meeting, what do you see happening? You see gold and silver prices shooting up rather quickly just on the thoughts. Not a real pivot, but on the thoughts of a pivot. What's it going to do when the real pivot comes? Gold and silver. Okay? Think about that for a minute, for you gold and silver investors out there. You saw silver go up over $1. You know? What's it going to do? I might get my $3 a day, maybe for multiple days, when the real pivot comes on silver. $3 up a day. I wouldn't be a bit surprised. But it's the demise of the dollar. And it's coming very soon. The real Fed pivot is going to be coming because these markets do not have a bottom. Quite seriously. Now, we're going to talk about something else right now. I'm going to get in here and talk about this. Yesterday in Japan, on your phones, you got this emergency thing goes, and that sound just upsets me something awful. I don't know why, but it's just like, I hate it. Just My heart rate goes up about 20 points when I hear that ee on my phone. Like, what is it? I have to go over and read it, find out what it is, you know. Most times it's well, the most recent one on my phone was a missing child report. Somebody, 4-year-old, wandered off. And they found him, luckily. They found him. He had a little bit of exposure. He was out all night on a rather cold night. And he wandered like for miles. Oh, well, not miles. Up here it's kilometers. You'd be amazed how far he went. You know? But they found him, thank goodness. But here's the thing. Imagine you're in Japan, and yet that phone thing goes off, and you look down at your phone that says, take cover, missile, or whatever. And you know, with all the tensions going on in the world, you can imagine the Japanese people, when they see that on their phone, they're thinking, uh-oh, World War III. That's it. That's it. I'm done. This is it. The end of the world. This is it. They see that red alert on their phone. And sure enough, they look up in the sky and they see this thing streaking across Japan. Where did it come from? And it was traveling at Mach 17, 4,500 kilometers an hour. It come from North Korea. It was a ballistic missile. Come from North Korea. Now I'm going to tell you guys something you don't know about North Korea. And I was covering this on my show years ago. I started covering this. Oh, it must have been 5 years ago or more. I used to cover North Korea a lot more and their nuclear program. You know, and back then they probably had between 10 and 30 they were building thermonuclear missiles, not just atom bombs, but they were testing back then. Now this was years ago. They were testing and they had made a hydrogen bomb. Now, if you don't know what a hydrogen bomb is, it's the biggest, most powerful of the thermonuclear weapons. And this hydrogen bomb that North Korea had made could fit in the back of a pickup truck. It's a tiny little device. So well made that North Koreans are so smart and they're so industrious, it almost defies imagination. And they'd made this tiny little device and they tested it. And it's about like 10 times as powerful as Hiroshima. But it's only tiny. You could fit it in a... I'm not going to call it a suitcase bomb. It's a bit bigger than that. Right? It could fit in the back of a pickup truck, though. So it's very small if you consider the size of nuclear weapons. You know, size-wise and weight-wise, it's very small. And they can fit this thing, they can fit it on missiles like they just launched that fly at Mach 17. And they've got missiles in North Korea. Well, years and years ago, they were able to put satellites that go around the Earth on big rockets. Those big rockets, you know, are they run off of liquid. It takes time for them to fill them and stuff. But North Korea, years ago, were working on solid propellant rockets. Now, what's the difference, you ask, between a solid propellant rocket and a liquid propelled rocket? Well, liquid-filled rockets have to be prepared on the launch pad, and it takes hours. They have to fill them with things like liquid oxygen and propellant and everything else, and they have to get them ready to go. But they're the big ones that go off to take people to the moon and stuff. Those are big. But the solid propellant rockets, North Korea's, they were working on, and they perfected, most likely, these solid propelled rockets. They don't need all that prep. You can launch them in an instant. And this is what they can put on the back of a truck, a big truck, and they can hide them anywhere, in the woods or anywhere else, and put a camo cover over top of the thing, and they can pull it out and launch it in like 5 minutes or less. They just have to use the hydraulics to lift it into the vertical position, and poosh, they launch it. Now they got these ICBMs that can fly halfway around the Earth, the North Koreans, and they've been mass producing them. They got their factories for the last number of years Ever since back when the United States was worried about them. You remember a few years ago the United States was very worried about them becoming a well, they've not only become a nuclear power, but they've been producing them in the factory for years now. And these factories have just been humming day and night in North Korea, producing these hydrogen bombs and delivery systems. And this is why they're testing them, because they are bristling with nuclear. North Korea, they're very powerful. And this is why they can get away with stuff like this, because they're so powerful. You know, you see, we're flying over. Let me just see if I can enlarge it. Look at this, right over Japan. It's because they're so powerful. They're probably nearly as powerful nuclear-wise. Well, I'm not going to say there's power. China's got around 300. But I think North Korea probably right now is very likely in excess of 100 nuclear weapons. Now just think about that for a minute. They got 100 of these things, and they're probably in excellent condition. Considering other arsenals, like arsenals that come from the Soviet era, you know, they might have been sitting in silos for years and years and years, and dust all over them and everything else. Not like these North Koreans had just been built recently. A very, very potent arsenal. And North Korea is like, they do what they want to do. And, you know, they probably pick the targets. They say they got 100 targets that they can pick with these thermonuclear weapons around the Earth. They know full well that they can't take out every military base. So I'm just thinking to myself, hey, you know, I may be wrong about this, but they probably got cities targeted. Well, 100 cities, you know, would cover just about, I mean, just 20 would cover all the big cities in the USA. It's just 20. And then you got 80 left they can target. They need a target. So then they could pick all these big cities in Europe, you know, and they probably still got 15 or 20 left after they target every big city in Europe. So then they say, well, okay, we'll target every city in Japan, Tokyo, and all these cities are probably all targeted by North Korea. Okay, so they're ready. Kim Jong, the leader of North Korea, he's got his red button. Okay, and so they just did a test, and they know they work good. They got them all lined up and ready to go, you know. And so, I mean, don't mess with North Korea now, because North Korea is extensive force. And so, just another thing for you guys to consider is the power of North Korea now. The only city I've probably not targeted is probably South Korea, because I'm going to tell you why. Is because the North Korean military, in conventional terms, they're probably looking at South Korea and thinking, oh, what a plum. You know, they probably don't want to. They've reunification of the Koreas into one Korea. And the war never ended between North and South Korea. They got a DMZ, which is a demilitarized zone. You know? And the war it's never ended. It's that demilitarized zone just basically makes the status quo. But I mean, something to end the war so that all this bloodshed ends, you know. But, you know, crazy world we live in right now. Regardless, here's what I want to say about the markets too. I'm going to get in there and look at this. Look at this rise in the price of silver. You know, and it's up 27 cents. That's almost $21 now. That's quick. Less than 48 hours. You could have had it a lot cheaper. And the demand is off the hook. You know, it's worth the premiums, guys, because I'm going to tell you this. I've been preaching silver for years on this channel. You guys know I've been a silver advocate, for probably the biggest silver advocate out there. I'm telling you guys, but this is just on a hint. A whim and a prayer of the Fed taper, not tapering, but the Fed easing. Imagine what it's going to do when they really start easing and the dollar really start dying. I would not be a bit surprised to see silver roar right on past $50. I mean, it was $50 years ago when a dollar was worth something. Seriously, I mean, back then, you know what you could buy with $1 back then? Now you can't buy diddly squat. It's gonna roar right on by that. 50, 100, 200, 500, because a dollar ain't worth nothing anymore. I mean, serious, just go to the grocery store. $100 at the grocery store used to fill a cart right full and overflowing, a whole cart, right? Now, that little kiddie place where you put the kids in that's got the, on the top of the cart? You fill that, or you're up to $100. What a difference we see. Anyway, so silver today is $20.95. Let's take a look at gold. Gold price is $17.09. It's up $8.70 today. Cryptocurrencies caught a little bid. Not a lot, but it's back above $20,000 at $20,005 for Bitcoin. And Ethereum's $13.53. So we're catching a little bit on crypto. But this is going to be a reversal on this. I'll tell you why. When the real mania comes to gold and silver, and the dollar is, just going down the toilet, and all the other fiat currencies are going down the toilet, because that's what's coming. It's absolutely 100% assured now at this point. We're not talking questionable about this. This is 100% coming. Gold and silver are going to disappear. The government's probably going to have to clamp down and not allow the sales of it, retail sales. They're going to probably have to cut off resale sales as an emergency measure to preserve industry. But they'll be buying. You'll still be able to sell it. You just won't be able to buy it physical, unless you're in some sort of a circle. Well, these people that are in the circle, these people that are all buddy and shake hands together, they can do anything anytime. They're above the law even, they're in the circle. They could probably still buy it. They'll take some of industry's supply, but you ain't going to get any. It's going to be all gone. The ordinary Joe out there can't buy it. But there's going to be tremendous money out there trying to get out of the dollar at that point, because the dollar's sinking. And all the other fiats are going to be trying to get out of the dollar, the yen. They're going to be trying to get out of and get into something that they can preserve their wealth. And their first idea is going to be gold and silver, and it's going to be all gone. They're not going to be able to buy any. They're still going to have their money in place, and that's when you're going to get your reversal. And you're going to see that money pour into cryptos. I've been saying this for years. But that's going to be by that time, it's only going to take a fraction of the money to make gold and silver disappear. Just a small fraction. And that's going to come first. Then all that money that's left over, it's going to be trillions. Chasing after real goods and services and gold and silver and farmland and whatever else. Fine art. They're going to drive the prices up on everything. But the best thing is going to be gold and silver. I'm going to tell you, you ain't going to be able to buy the stuff. Right now, this is like ground floor still on these things, on alternatives to the fiat currencies. People just can't get their head around it that fiat currencies are worthless. They only retain value because they say so. And they're destroying it hand over fist right in front of our eyes. And people just can't get it. They just can't get this through their head. That it's going to zero. Anyway, so that's what we see with cryptos today. Let's take a look at the market today. And the market's been catching a real good bid the last couple days. 347 points up today on the Dow. 29,900. It's ready to go back up above 30,000 again. Poised. But that's if the Fed doesn't come out with an announcement that's not what they expect. Now, can you imagine if the Fed, if I was right about the Fed, that they're not going to pivot just yet, and they're all counting on this pivot, and the Fed comes out and said, next month we're going to make another 75 basis point, or even a 1% hike in rates, and we're going to continue with our quantitative tightening. This is all the air is going to come out of all this, including your gold and silver. Well, we'll be right back where we started again. Gold and silver will go back down to the... It was on the floor, and it'll go right back down to the floor again. And so will the markets. In fact, the markets might crash. But then it's just going to be the same old deal again. If the markets crash out of bed really bad, then the Fed really will have another emergency meeting, and they really will pivot. So the pivot's coming. It's just a matter of choice for the Fed. Are they going to do it now and preserve whatever economy we still have, or are they going to wait a couple months until they get this big crash and all these jobs are lost, and the market starts to melt down, and the derivatives start to melt down, and banks start to go under, and then they have to do 10 times bigger a pivot, 10 times worse, 10 times harder to stop the train at that point. That's the choice we're at right now, and it's for the Fed to make. I'm thinking that they're stupid enough that they're going to take the latter, and that they're going to have to really have a big problem to fix. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm betting on. So we'll have to wait and see. They might pivot now. Maybe. I'm not going to be that surprised if they do. I'm wrong from time to time, but I ain't worried about it, because either way they're going to pivot. They're going to pivot soon. If they don't do it now, they're going to do it a little bit later, but if they do it a little bit later, things are only going to be a lot worse. Okay, that's basically what I want to say about that. Taking a look at oil, 85.06, it's up $1.43. Move index today, 152.94. So move index is getting rather high. That is high. This might have been why they were talking. They might be worried about these credit markets. And this is an indicator right now. Move index over 150 is an indicator that there's instability in the credit markets. Very bad instability in the credit markets. That's an indicator. U.S. dollar bonds and rates today. We're seeing falling yields today. We're looking at a U.S. 10-year at 3.61 and the U.S. 30-year at 3.67, and we're looking at falling yields 4 basis points down on the 10-year and 3 basis points down on the 30-year. And now let's take a look at the U.S. dollar index at 110.98 today, and it's fallen off. I don't even know how this has fallen off, because what this is based on is mostly the euro. It's like 60% the euro in that basket. I think it's the Swiss franc, the Canadian dollar, and a number of others that they compare it against. But they're all crap. It's just that generally this is a little bit better quality crap than the other crap. And so it's been keeping the dollar index up. A number of things keep it up. One is that you can still buy quite a bit of gold and silver with it, with the dollar, and this is why it's proven its value, that it still has quite a little bit of purchasing power. Considering what they're doing with it, it actually has amazing purchasing power. Take advantage of that purchasing power while you still can, while you still got some. Seriously. Okay, guys, thank you for listening to my show. Like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.